Hi, this is Brett Jolly for People Like Us, and we got another episode here. This is being done to basically familiarize yourselves with some of the people in our community, let you know about what they're doing, and also to familiarize yourself with what's going on. My co-host, Toni Trower, she couldn't be here today, but we're here with a very special guest. As a matter of fact, I'm real excited because we got Davis times 3.
Uh-oh.
All right. We got him. And you know what? It's a beautiful thing. These guys are great musicians. They're pretty much family to me. But rather than me go into it, I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves, starting with whoever. We'll start with the big one.
Oh, that would be me?
That would be you.
Okay, this is kind of like a campfire meeting. But, hey, hi everybody. My name is Stan Davis. I am a music teacher, a retired musician. And I say retired because as soon as I say I'm retired, that's when my phone rings and says, can you do one more gig? So know that I'm retired. I'll be looking for your call.
Okay, who's next?
Come on.
I'll go next.
Okay.
My name is Stan Davis Jr. The namesake. I'm a musician, active musician. I play multiple instruments. I produce, and I do a lot of traveling and making noise.
Love it.
There it is.
Way to go.
And your turn, man.
And my name is Stephen Davis Sr. I am the second son of Stan Davis Sr. Also a professional musician. I play keys and bass. I work with a few different ensembles, played a lot of events through the city and throughout the tri-state. I don't travel as much as him.
Sounds great. I want to let you guys know, first off, of course, naturally, this guy I've known for a long time.
Long before these guys were even around.
That's true. That's very true. But you know, he's really done great in terms of his family, and they're very accomplished. I want to start off with you.
With me?
Yes.
All right.
What got you into music in the first place?
That strange story I can kind of condense down. Music has pretty much been a part of my life all my life. Me thinking that I could sing a little bit goes back even farther than my oldest memories.
You can sing.
So we would kind of, when I was a boy in North Philly growing up, there would be times right about sunset when the guys that were standing in the corner drinking their vinos and they would get comfortable, and one had to start singing something, do, 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 and somebody else jump in, and it was always somebody that needed that high tenor or something, and they would call me Little Drew because my brother Drew would be out there hanging with them. Come here, Little Drew. You sing the top note. And it started with that. Instrumentally, when I got in about, middle school they call it now. Back then they called it junior high school. And in junior high school I was part of the choir and part of the glee club. So it was all about vocals. I wasn't into instrumental music until I got into high school, where I started on the tenor saxophone. That was my first instrument. And then I quickly accelerated to piano, and I've been hooked on music ever since.
Wow, that's pretty good. So how did you get these? Well, we know how you got these two. How did you get these two involved in music?
Hey, here's the story that I've told since they were both in Pampers. But I said, okay, so we're at the hospital, it's time to have my child, and they come out and they say, it's a boy. They take him over, clean him off, and bring him over, and before they give him to their mother, they hand him to me. And the first thing I did, like Roots, I held him up, and I give him to God. And the next thing I did was I hold them and I shake my finger in their face and say, you don't have to be a musician, but you got to know how. In other words, it's always been my thought that historically a father would teach his son to do what he did. You know, whether the son actually went into that business or not was to be determined, but at least he set his son up. If you need to decide how can I make some money, you can do what I do.
Beautiful, beautiful. Steve, who have you played for, and what do you have coming in? I guess in terms of your profession.
Well, I've personally played for quite a few different artists throughout the city, and like I said, throughout the tri-state. I've played for a few different ensembles, a lot of prominent musicians. Most recently, I actually got to play with Jeff Bradshaw, which was a great opportunity for me. I'm grateful for that. Shout out to Jeff.
Shout outs.
But yeah, other than that, like I was saying earlier, I've been playing with Expressions of Soul primarily. It's a party band based out of Philadelphia. They're about to run Bumpus. They're pretty heavily booked, pretty consistent. So I work with them pretty frequently. Besides for that, I also work with Boogie Down Experience. They have the Velocity Band, which is a wedding and event band. That's Janae Latrice's company. And yeah.
Okay.
We gonna mic up, huh?
No, we got it. We got it. One thing I do want to ask you before we get to Stan. You said a wedding band.
Yeah.
Okay. As a musician, how does that affect you being in a wedding band? I mean, do you feel you have the same creativity? Do you feel that it seems more structured? How does that work for you?
So with Boogie Down specifically in the Velocity Band, I feel like they do have a pretty good, strong structure. With most of the wedding bands that I've played with and the companies that I've been affiliated with, they have had a good structure. Depending on who you're working with and what you're trying to achieve, they do allow some room for creativity and embellishment. But for the most part, you have your structure there so that there's order and so that everybody has an idea of what you're doing going into it, and so that things can move forward smoothly. And that structure has been helpful, in executing.
So it doesn't. So work with them has not stifled you in any way.
No, not at all. If anything, it's helped me to grow and to flourish as a musician. I've learned, staying in my lane, how to play my parts and how to help accentuate the overall sound as opposed to trying to do what I'm doing individually.
Gotcha. Okay. Stan 2. I'm going to call you 1 and 2. I think we're going to have to do. Tell everybody what you've done and who you played for, because I know you've got an extensive.
I played with a few artists over the years. I have. My life has been a journey for the most part, and it's been a musical journey, but it's just been a series of meeting incredible human beings and learning amazing things, and then them introducing me to more incredible human beings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. You worked with a couple of names though.
So, all right. The first band that I ever toured with was Kindred the Family Soul, and that was back in 2003, 2004, something like that. So 20-year anniversary is coming up for me.
All right.
And I toured with Kindred for a couple of years, and I was Richard Tucker and Stacy McGee were in the band at the time.
Oh yeah, great musicians.
These are both excellent musicians, and these are also my OGs. These are friends of my father, and so when I came in, Tuck pulled me to the side on one of my first gigs, and he said to me, "Man, when I was a teenager, your dad looked out for me. So I'm going to look out for you." I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a beautiful thing.
And he took
It's
me.
nice for him to remember that.
Yeah.
And that's a true statement, because believe it or not, he looked out for me as well.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be surprised how often we hear that.
Yeah. I would
So
be.
watch this.
Yeah.
So I was on tour with Kindred, and we did a show in Indianapolis. It was 05, something like that, 05, 06. We were in Indianapolis and playing this festival, and Tina Marie was headlining the festival.
Ooh.
And Tuck and Stacy said, "Hey, yo, we're going to meet some of the band members because a couple of them are from Philly. You want to go with us?" I'm like, "Of course I do."
Yeah.
So I'm going. I'm all young and hype and just going, oh wow, musician, all the things. So I get there, and they introduced me to Daryl Burgee and Doug Gracie.
Yeah. Two great Philadelphia musicians.
And so they come up.
legends.
Doug shows them all the love in the world right off the rip. Y'all know how Doug is.
Yeah.
Doug was, rest in peace.
Yeah, he rested.
But then they turn around and they say, "Hey, you remember Stan Davis from Hollywood Palace?" They say, "Yeah, of course I do." This is his son. And he stopped everything and says, "Hold up. You Stan Davis' son? Man, your dad, this and just went on and on. And from then on, me and Doug was like that.
Well, it's a true statement. I mean, to be honest with you, for most people, growing up, and I'm not putting this on blast, but it's the truth of the matter. Stan worked at a place that I think all musicians went to at some point, didn't they?
Everybody.
Everybody. I mean,
graduated
who are some of the
Hollywood
people
Palace.
that came through? Because you were the
Well, just for the record, since we're recording, in Philadelphia, it was up at 52nd and Walnut Street, and the spot was called the Hollywood Palace. Hollywood Palace was the go-to spot. We would do open mic night every Wednesday and Thursday. At some point, it broke down to just Thursdays. But when I first went there, Wednesday and Thursday, we would be there. We'd play the first hour, and then we'd open up to whatever artists or musicians or vocalists would come through. And they'd come up on stage, and it was so unique because we played with some of the best and some of the worst that Philly had. No, when I say some of the worst, they were so bad that they were actually comical, to where people would cheer for them, and they want to hear from this one individual because he or she gonna sing so terribly, gonna give us a wonderful comedic experience. And everybody used to come through the Hollywood Palace. And one of the funny things about it, sitting at the keyboard on the Hollywood Palace stage, I've heard from others that would come back and say, and people were saying that, now watch the keyboard player, because he know all these songs. I didn't know all of them. I've heard them. You let me hear the first four chords, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, you figured them out. I remember that. I remember that.
So Hollywood Palace is a landmark, a staple of Philadelphia and Philadelphia's music history. A lot of people want to talk about Philadelphia music history and want to lean toward jazz so much. And Philadelphia musically is so much more than just jazz. I respect all jazz musicians. I respect the genre itself, but there is more.
There you go. Now you're teaching now, right?
Yeah, we are actually in our 16th year as a bona fide, non-profit, faith-based music program for kids. Our PMMC music program has been going on, and our call letters stand for the Philadelphia Multicultural Music Center for Nonviolence, where we're using music education to reduce violence in the community.
Beautiful. I think that's absolutely great. How many people do you think, students do you have in your program right now?
At present, we have 22 active on our roster. And I say active because if for any reason, if you're a student of our music program and you decide to take a sabbatical leave, we don't just rip up your application or consider you no longer a part of our music family. So what we actually have and what we have on the roster. Now we have 50 slots, so with 22 active students, that means we have 28 empty slots that we're looking to fill with school-age kids using music education to reduce violence in our community.
That's a beautiful thing. I'm really glad to hear that. Stan, I want to ask you. You know how music is going from back during your father's day. There was a time.
That sounds like the Flintstones.
Yeah. There used to be a time when, people use whole orchestras to do shows. Of course, violin players. It seemed like, except for orchestra, is kind of done. Horn players, they can play it on the keyboard and everything else. In your opinion, what is the state of music right now?
State of music, you mean like live performance?
Exactly.
Okay.
Live performance.
Well, the obvious answer, there's a lot more advancements in technology,
Right.
from my father's age to now. There's a lot more access to portable computers and things like that, and that people are using on stage and on different performances that they didn't have in in
Sure.
the 70s and 80s or whatever. I mean, the drum machines and that sort of thing, that's not new. You know what I mean? Those click tracks and those sorts of things, none of that's new. Like even using sequences on stage, that's not new.
Yeah.
Like, and the funny thing is that I was around to like kind of witness a large part of that evolution. You know what I mean? I was a music nerd from a kid.
All right.
My dad had a DX7, an M1, and what was that? That little sequencer joint.
Was it they had?
The QX5.
Yeah, the Yamaha joint. Yeah.
QX5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But you had no problem making the adjustment.
I mean, like I said, I grew with it.
Okay.
I agree with it. So just like these young people are growing with tablets now, it's the same. But to me, it was the same thing. I was saying to somebody the other day, it fascinates me how many musicians don't understand MIDI.
Right. Well, yeah. How about
Maybe a
that?
history.
Yeah. How about that?
Just straight. Just
we all had to use
you know,
it.
all your devices have MIDI, the guitar,
Yeah, they're
pedals.
MIDI capable.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
MIDI
right.
capable, USB, and all these things, and people don't know what it means, how to use it. It's just it changes patches.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. How's the
That's all.
adjustment been for you, Steve, in terms of that? I mean, you know, was it a simple transition? Does it get on your nerve? Does it what happens with it when you have it?
I mean, ultimately, I kind of share a lot of my brother's, perspective on that. I did grow with it and adapted to a lot of it. In my growth and progression as a musician, learning and just being a student, I came up under, a lot of prominent musicians, studying my brother and going by his guidance, him showing me the ropes and being in the field, so to speak.
Gotcha.
When I first got started, he would take me with him to the open mics at Fusion Nightclub. They were doing Philly Live Pod at the time, which was back, early 2000s.
Right.
And, that was my initial exposure to the Philadelphia music scene. I knew what was going on, but I, didn't really have the insights. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know people. And so, with his guidance and that, base level exposure, that helped me to grow. From there, I started working with Tommy Thompson, staying connected him with me. And it's Tommy Thompson, drummer. He go by Cheerio. So I worked with him full circle band for a long time. And working with them really, really helped me to grow as a musician. And even, with like certain musical directing experience and being hands-on and just, watching performers and watching, like people arrange and just the different layouts, the different approaches to live musicianship and performances, working with different ensembles and different people taught me a lot. So I've just been trying to soak it all up and use it appropriately in application situationally. So.
That's beautiful. And considering the theory of music, do any of you guys read?
I do
You
not.
read. Okay.
Yeah,
Do you read?
No, I do not.
Do you read?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Now, the next question: how often?
So we can edit him out since he.
No. We're gonna keep him in. We're gonna keep him in. Yeah. How often has the reading theory come into play for you? How often do you need to use it?
I would say for the work that I do now, about 40% of it requires me to read.
Really, 40%?
Wow. It not requires, but I would say I get charged on a good portion of it.
Really?
Fortunately.
Okay.
Like the gigs that I do regularly, no. But
Okay.
like, say for instance, the weddings, if they have a special request or something like that, they'll usually send
Right.
an MP3 and a sheet music.
Okay.
Most of the time. 40% of the time.
Gotcha. Do you? How about you?
Oh well, all the time with me, I don't mean 100%, but a lot more than 40%, simply because most of my musical interaction is not going out and performing, but rather teaching. So I'm always talking to the kids and letting them know, musically speaking. First of all, there's only 7 letters in the musical alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But
Right.
you got to know them backwards, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, as well as you know them forward. So we promote in our music program that all music theory begins at the piano. You start at the piano and you can go from there. But using that, you want to learn your musical alphabet, you want to learn your majors, your minors, your sharps, your flats, your intervals and inversions. We're constantly teaching and letting the kids understand your circle of fourths, your circle of fifths, your modes, your harmonics, all of these things come into play. Learning how to convert one chord to another chord. What are the components of a major chord? How do you convert a major chord to a minor chord? Crazy question. What are the 4 components of a diminished 7 chord? Do you know there are a lot of musicians that know the answer but don't realize that they know it?
Wow. Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
I can understand.
But as I teach the kids, teaching a monkey to play an instrument is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't teach a monkey to understand what it is that he's playing. As your music instructor, my job is to make sure you understand what it is that you're playing.
Gotcha. Okay. That's a good thing. There's one question I definitely wanted to ask. Considering like, and I'm sure all of you have done studio work.
Yes.
Okay. Now, considering how music is nowadays, you can't really sell many. I don't think they're selling records anymore or CDs. All right. You correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I'm kind of making a comeback, but it's a niche thing.
Okay.
Trying hard. Yeah.
Okay. So and of course, when in the studio, a lot of producers, who needed musicians before, are now just finding loops online. Okay. Now, that being said, I want to know, is being a musician an endangered species?
It's a good question.
I think that a lot of the young wannabe artists are stealing so much from existing loops, sequences, and things like that, that it really doesn't take a lot for them to look like a musician when they actually haven't done anything to put the time in, to cut their teeth learning, to pay their dues. And that's what being a musician is all about. Because if you feel that practicing your instrument is a chore, then you're not a musician.
Right. Okay.
If you're just going to take something that James Brown made, play this over and over, loop this little stanza, and rap to that, you've done nothing.
That's true. That's very true.
Well, you know what? Watch this. You have visual artists. I was just thinking about this. You have visual artists that will take clippings from a magazine and arrange them a certain way,
Right.
and frame it and sell it for thousands of dollars.
Well,
Yeah, there you go.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah. Now, which part of art school did you go to?
I mean, that's, that's the thing.
Well, I mean, to piggyback off of Stan's point, and feel free to stop me if I'm wrong. But ultimately, what he's saying is that there are different forms and methods of expression, when it comes to art. And although, one person might be taking heavy influence from a different artist, to create their art, there's still some methodology in there to the madness. Ultimately, I do agree with the point that you were making, and to go even back to understanding what you're playing. If a person is looping something and that's the basis of it, that's all they do, then they're not really taking the time to understand their artistry and the basis of what it is they're sampling.
Well,
But
a lot of times we, and I'm speaking we meaning us artists, we take offense to the fact that we had to do all of this work. I had a music teacher that used to crack my knuckles with the yardstick. You're gonna do it right. Now, I would never ever suggest that someone be physical with any student.
Right.
All right, so I'm owed an apology for all the times that my knuckles were hit. But nonetheless, there was work put in, not just getting your knuckles hit, but you had to spend time in. You have to do it. I have a sign on my classroom wall that says repetition breeds familiarity.
I know it very well.
Repetition breeds familiarity means the more you repeat it, the more familiar it will become. In other words, practice makes perfect. But if you haven't practiced, and I had to spend years practicing, how do you expect for me to have a mindset that musically you and I are equals? I don't quite get that.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. For one, I don't necessarily, make it like an equality thing. there's absolutely levels. You know, I don't compare Oscar Peterson to Kanye West. They're different types of, you know what I'm saying? They're different types of artists.
Unique.
I like that.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have to respect where his genius is and where his genius is. So, even though Kanye West might sample Oscar Peterson, you know what I'm saying? He has a different type of work that he's doing where he builds his artistry and his music around that sample.
Because I asked Oscar Peterson if he can work a sampler.
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
Everybody has their different application, you know. So there are people now that use the loopers, you know what I'm saying? And they're a one-man show. They stand there, they'll play a loop with their guitar, they'll make a sound with their voice, and they've got, you know, background music right there. They don't need a band. Then you've got other people who absolutely need musicians behind them for certain nuances and, you know, for a different type of element. So everybody has different approaches to their music. It's just about what they're trying to convey and how they interpret it.
Yeah, and that's, you know, and that's powerful. One of the things that I do want to mention here, you know, when putting this thing together here, and we're just about at that time now, but one thing I think I can admit to, I think everybody here can admit to, we need to have a part 2, a part 3, and a part 4. Absolutely. You know, and these guys didn't let me
This
down.
conversation is not over.
It is not over by any means. It might be over for this one here now, but I want to give thanks to all 3 Davises here. You know, they were really great. We had a great time. Hope you enjoyed it. This is People Like Us. You know, and I'm Brett Jolly with my co-host Toni Trower. Toni Trower is not here right now, but the one thing we want to make sure that we let you know, our mission is to change the world one voice at a time. And I want to thank you guys so much for everything. We got to have another parts to this. All right.
Well, thanks for having us. Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. And we will see you all next time.
Take care. Be blessed.